Three, two, one. Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the Timmy Tom Show. We have a special treat for you today. Today, we're going to be interviewing a nurse who works specifically on the front lines in the hospital in California. And we're going to be interviewing her about the vaccine, about COVID, her experience in the hospital, on the front line, do masks work, and any place we want to go. So with that being said, let's introduce our special guest.
Welcome.
Welcome, Mary.
Show.
Yep. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So little background. Actually, Tim, you go by Timmy, right? Timmy.
For the purposes of the show, I go by Timmy, but I actually go by Timothy.
Okay. So we met because I can be pretty vocal, I think. We were at breakfast sitting across from each other. I was with my party, you with yours in the morning. But you noticed the button I was wearing on my jacket, and it said, I did not get my COVID vaccine.
Uh-huh.
And so that sparked your interest, and I think you asked why. But for your listeners, as a nurse that works in an emergency department, and I declined my vaccine. I love where I work. They don't shame you for not getting your vaccine. It's voluntary, of course, but they were passing out stickers on the back of on everyone's badge. It has a nice little size sticker that says, I got my shot or I got my vaccine. And, the motto is, I'm doing my part. We hear a lot of that for over a year. I'm doing my part. And so in a way, I feel like it's passive aggressive, because does that mean I'm not doing my part as, in my job, in my field? So I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be allowed to. I haven't attempted to wear a button at work that says I declined my COVID vaccine. So I wear it out in public because I want to maybe spark a conversation if anyone is interested in talking about it. And that's why I wear mine. I want people to see there is another point of view, and maybe they want to ask why.
Right. And I can understand why at work you wouldn't want to wear it, for the sake of those patients who feel so afraid of the virus. Seeing that kind of thing might make people not think, but might make them fear even more.
Correct. Also, when you're taking care of a patient, especially in the emergency department, you don't have much time to build that patient nurse relationship, that trust. And so that's probably not a good way to start off. If you're already afraid of the virus and now you have this nurse, and you think, oh my gosh, he's a rebel who's taking care of me. So I don't want to misrepresent my employer too. I do like my job. And so I'll cite their practices when I'm asked a particular question, and I want to establish that good relationship. My priority at work is take care of my patient. I don't care their background, where they're from, why they're there. That's my priority. And that relationship, you only have a few minutes in the beginning to establish that, that first, what do you call it?
Rapport with them.
Thank you. Yes. And which is very difficult to do with the mask on, because you can't see me smiling. You can't see it. I'll point at my badge and say, this is me. I'm smiling underneath, but it's hard when I'm saying, open your mouth, do this, undress, and yet I'm supposed to appear friendly. We're losing all that human touch and the facial expressions.
I agree with you. I heard somebody talking earlier today, and they were saying, I have somebody who I've interacted with on a regular basis with the mask, and suddenly I had an occasion where I saw them without the mask, and I didn't recognize them.
Yes,
I thought, that's not what I thought the lower part of their face should look like. I'm so used to
all the time.
The eyes.
All the time. Yes, I go to take your temperature, and I always comment or giggle and say, oh my goodness, I didn't know you had a mustache or a beard. Or thinking you're missing all your teeth. But people look very different when you can see below their eyes.
It is very different. Yeah, it is very different indeed.
Yeah.
And you're right. It loses that personal touch because it's a barrier between me and you.
Yes.
And Lord knows we have enough barriers anyway because of all the other things in this world.
Yes, and I just really feel for, especially the children. Really feel for children. because they aren't able to see those facial expressions. And
Are there are there a lot of children who have are in hospital for COVID?
That's a good question. I don't believe so. No, I don't even have probably an accurate count of how many total deaths there have been of children. That really varies. It's so low. That's probably why you never hear it reported, because that would draw too much attention about opening schools or not. Yeah, so I haven't seen any children for even those infections. I know that there's been an increase in bacterial pneumonia in children, and it's some emergency departments, I think, are more open in disclosing that it's from wearing the mask. It's bacterial pneumonia, not from COVID, not a virus.
It's from breathing CO2 all day.
Yes, and it's that bacteria though that you're not expelling. I used to be medical surgical oncology, so I would have patients after surgeries and would teach them how to prevent getting pneumonia following surgeries. And it was the deep breaths, just those good deep breaths that when patients are in pain, tired, fatigued, they're not getting up and walking after surgeries, they're doing these little shallow breaths, and that bacteria, instead of expelling it out, it's just growing in there, and you get bacterial pneumonia. So here I have a nurse that I used to work with in those departments, and so when all these mask policies were going in for so many months, and I said, hey, do you remember what we used to teach our patients? And what are we doing? We're just a breeding ground for that bacterial pneumonia now.
It's kind of like the cold therapy, why you take cold showers, because as soon as the cold hits you, you breathe in really deep and more than usual, but it helps get rid of those bacteria.
Yes, it does. And so you hear little things called the mask cough, I think. And it's true, when you've had a couple of days off and you get back to work with that N95 on, it takes about an hour, especially how fast you start working. Maybe you're diving and taking care of patients, physically taking care of patients, and that first hour you're short of breath. You're not used to going with a little bit less oxygen, and then you're having to also mouth breathe too.
Well, the less oxygen explains a lot nowadays.
It sure does. Maybe that'd be another good study that could explain a lot for the last year and a half. It's true.
That's right. So somebody said the thing that gets washed most during the COVID experience is the brain.
I haven't heard that one. I haven't heard that one.
Now, tell us a little bit about, because we met and I asked you about your pin. Tell us about your pin that you were wearing.
That was the pin I was discussing about. I did not get my COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
So
what specifically about the vaccine are you refusing to get?
So I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I've had my vaccination. My kids, they all had theirs. I do believe in understanding why I'm getting a vaccine, and if I was younger and I had newborns now, I don't agree with how many vaccines are given all at one time. I don't see why you can't spread them out just a little bit. Because of that inflammatory process when you get a vaccine. But I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I do like research. I do like facts. I'd like to look up what I'm doing, why we're doing something. I like to question things, and not because I'm cynical. That's just how I am. And I think that happened more so when I began homeschooling my kids when they were young. I think that's when it started. Learning that critical thinking, as I taught that to them, is when I learned critical thinking. I was brought up in just a regular public school system. And I am, by the way, I'm 50 years old, so I'll let you know some background too. So
yes.
I was brought up in a public school system and homeschooled my children. So I learned a lot as I was teaching them and using other resources, using primary resources more often. So when I became a nurse later on, and when I got my bachelor's degree, I really liked my research. Not everybody likes the research class portion of their bachelor's degree in science. I did. Maybe that's a little bit of the nerd in me, but I liked to read and I like to understand the articles and what makes a credible research study. That's when you have to learn your stats and peer reviewed and all that criteria. So when the vaccine started coming out, I wasn't trying to be cynical. I just wanted to understand a little bit and did my research. And that's what I did. So for me, Basically, and I think I threw out those little bullet points to you that morning. For me, I declined the vaccine because it's only the participants that received the vaccine were only followed for 2 months. That the mRNA vaccine, it's the first time that we've had a vaccine using mRNA instead of a actual virus.
Right.
The coronavirus is not new. We know that this is the SARS coronavirus 2, right? There's been other ones. They've tried to do vaccines for coronavirus for years. And whenever they get to the animal testing part, it always fails. The animals die. Basically, they're given the vaccines, and then when the animals are exposed to the virus in the wild, like we in the wild would be just your everyday living. When they're exposed to the vaccine, they would die. So we don't have any peer review, we don't have any reports of animal studies for this vaccine. That to me is something pretty big. The other reason is there's so many. I'm getting ahead of myself of all the things that I would like to go over. So those were the biggest ones. Let's see, I know I'm missing some important ones though, besides those, but that to me was already enough. And then not to disclose everything for proprietary reasons, it's just, to me, it was risk versus benefit. Why something that I have actually elderly have 95% chance of living, but mine is 99% chance of recovery if I got infected. Why would I get an experimental medication? So, a lot of people think that the vaccine is FDA approved. So that's something big. I had nurses at work saying, they're asking me, Rochelle, did you get yours? They were always, somebody are interested in what I like to think, because obviously I am opinionated when it's appropriate, and we're in the break room and they ask me questions. Rochelle, did you get yours? Did you get yours? And I said, no, I didn't. Why not? I said, well, for one thing, it's not FDA approved. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. And that kind of hurts me, because I do really care about people. I am sincere when they tell me that, I'm looking at it and thinking, you didn't get informed consent. And then as a nurse, you didn't even inquire a little bit. It's not FDA approved. Yes, it is. They approved it. I said, they approved it for emergency usage. Emergency usage. That is not FDA approved. And if you were to go on the permits for Pfizer, Moderna, and I've downloaded all those, you can see it says it's not FDA approved. It's experimental. It says it's not licensed. It's not even licensed.
Hey guys, hey, thanks for tuning in today. I'm in the car right now, so a little bumpy, but thanks for tuning in. Part 2 will be up next week, all right? So if you enjoyed our talk with the Frontline nurse, make sure to tune in next week. Got a lot more info. Basically, in recap, the vaccine's not FDA approved. They don't give you the actual virus. It's an mRNA. And so, all the animal testing with previous COVID vaccines have died. And so, something to consider. You got a 99% survival rate. Anyways, tune in next week, and we'll catch you there. Make sure to catch us on Instagram at Timmy Tom Show, and subscribe and like this video, guys. It means a lot. Thanks. Bye.